Hey folks, rinimt here, and welcome to the Imperial Grace demo. This is taking part in the Choose Wisely Festival on Steam, which is taking place from December 8th through 15th, 2025. This and a whole bunch of other cool games are available for either discounts or part of the deal or just as demos, so go check it out. It's pretty cool. Bunch of cool games. Anyway, let's dive in to Imperial Grace. This game is intended for a mature audience. It contains many themes that could offend the sensitivity of younger players. The complete list of trigger warnings is available on our store page. You're going to play a demo version of the game, thus the content might be subject to change and some features may be missing, such as the diplomacy feature. Sure, we'll do some tips. Click anywhere on the screen to progress the story. Use your mouse to be able to go back, even after a choice. You can fasten the text display in settings. Several accessibility features are available in the options for your gaming comfort, especially if you are dyslexic, photosensitive, or epileptic, so don't hesitate to check the corresponding functions. You can check your resources from the extra menu at any time. Have fun! Let's do normal mode. First name we'll keep the default. So what do we got? A bunch of choices here. Blessed by Basan, you have loved fighting since you were a child. Although you are not allowed on the battlefield, you are in excellent physical shape and your swordsmanship rivals that of a man. Atera, when you were young, you almost became a scholar. Your love of reading and learning has given you knowledge in many fields, including astronomy, theology, and botany. Laurel, art of diplomacy and eloquence. Excuse me. You can improvise inspiring speeches in an instant and know the first names of every noble over 3 generations. Myriad. Numbers and resource management hold no secrets for you, and you have excellent relationships with merchants, are good at mental arithmetic, and know all of the subtleties of tithes and other taxes, not only from Kalidia, also from your neighbors. Let's do improved influence. Skin. So there's a bunch of different skins. So the face shape does change slightly with each different one. We'll do light. There's freckles, beauty marks. Like so. Sure, we'll do beauty mark too. Hair. The hair type, contrary to the hairstyle, cannot be modified during the game and will be taken into account during illustrations. Alright. So straight, wavy, curly dreads. What's under straight? This is very similar to FIFA 14. I love that hairstyle. We'll do this one. We'll do that one. Is there no color? We can do eye color. There we go. Alright. Cannot change hair color. Which I guess makes sense. That'd be a whole lot more CHEs they'd have to draw if they're like taken into account. So we'll go with this. Confirm. Customizations on the screen will not be reflected in the illustrations CG. The match option adapts your outfit to the illustration, not the other way around. To change your outfit during the game, click extra outfit. White one. Switch outfit to match the illustration. The start of the scene that have an illustration CG, the game will automatically switch your outfit hairstyle to match the one that's using illustration, as we don't have the menus to make every variation. Outfit. We'll go... Oh, that's like super fancy. Oh, there's even more. Oh, geez. Sure, we'll go with that. Jewelry. There's a whole lot of options in here. I don't like chokers much. Crowns. Options unlock after coronation. Confirm. Just make sure my... Oh, there was more. There was one more there. Outfit. Sure, we'll do that one. Jewelry. Don't really want to wear jewelry to sleep, right? Only used for the combat specialty. Okay, so I can't change that one because I'm not in that specialty. Alright, prologue. This is a pretty lengthy demo, as you can probably see from the length of the video at this point. Yeah. Your Grace, Your Grace! A panicked voice resonated in my dream, like an echo, a few moments before I understood that it came from somewhere else and woke up with a jolt, disoriented. A palpable feeling of urgency had immediately brought me to my senses, but it still took me a few seconds to recognize the advisor's voice, as well as the room I was in. Alden, what's going on here? Your Highness, I bring terrible news. Your father was assassinated last night. I was ready to hear just about anything. Managing crises was an important part of royalty after all, and yet I was completely stunned by the news. My father was dead at the hands of an assassin just a few rooms away from me. All the implications from this revelation bounced through my head, drenched in doubt and fear concerning my own security and the future of the realm of Kalidia. I beg your pardon, Your Highness, I was too late. Pulling myself out of my lethargy, I looked down on Alexander, who knelt next to the bed, his head bent low, as if the weight of his shame stopped him from getting up. Whatever went down, I knew he had nothing to be ashamed of. When I was just a child, I already admired his talents, and they grew steadfast with age and the position of general. His presence here was a relief. I didn't know the assassin's full intentions, but even if they were after me, as long as Alexander was by my side, I didn't have anything to worry about. Don't put yourself down like this. You aren't responsible for what happened. We'll bring the regicide to justice. Still mortified, Alexander stayed on his knees. I could see his fingers twitch a little, proof he wasn't completely convinced, but he needed his approval all the same, transported by the firmness of my voice. As for me, now that I had said it out loud, I felt that the information had settled in my mind, and I finally accepted it as truth with a full understanding of the situation. My father, Magnus V, Emperor of Kalidia, was dead. Many would have broken down after hearing such news, but for years I hadn't held an ounce of affection for him. His death was actually good news for me. It marked the beginning of a new era, a better one I hoped. An era for which I'd been preparing ever since I realized that this was my destiny. I was to succeed him. I was to become the Empress. But it wasn't yet time for celebration. Although I was legitimate heir to the throne, I had plenty of detractors, and I still needed to figure out why the assassination had taken place. I had many questions about the killer's identity and motivations. I was lost in thought, and it took me a while to realize that Alden and Alexander were staring at me, worried, surely awaiting a reaction or a declaration from me. Both had known me since early childhood. They knew the enmity I felt for the Emperor, and I trusted them enough to set all pretenses aside. But it was perhaps a bit inappropriate to rejoice over my future title when my father's dead corpse was still warm. After taking a deep breath, I threw off my covers and got up, eyeing them. Rejoice, pretend to be sad, stay neutral. Clothing seemed to be a tad indecent, but I could at least spare myself the pretense of being the grieving orphan that I would surely need to be in front of the court. What I feel isn't important. You don't have to worry about me. What matters most is our nation, and we all know that the sudden death of an emperor is a delicate situation. At the moment, the most important thing is to preserve the kingdom's stability. I'm counting on you to protect and serve me. This won't be an easy task, but I'm sure we can accomplish great things. This time, Alexander got up, putting his hand on his sheath in a dignified and military posture. At your service, Highness, may the floor witness my oath. I solemnly swear that I will protect you until my dying breath. Emphatic. There, that's what I'm looking for. Emphatic, he bowed down before lifting his eyes up to me. I smiled and accepted his allegiance with a certain poise, despite my unkempt hair and my nightgown. Marjorie, my tutor, often told me that everything about me showed nobility, that I didn't need any props to act like an empress. Today, I understood what she had meant. Alden, however, didn't seem to share the general's fervor. Forgive me, your majesty, for tarnishing your enthusiasm, but there is a very delicate question I have to ask. Have you had your father killed? His abrupt question threw me off, and I stared at him, wavering between surprise and indignation. How dare you even suggest such a possibility? You're going too far, advisor. Come on, don't be offended. You said it yourself. You've hated your father since the death of your brother. You've always held him responsible for it. And your father dies on the very day of your return to the palace. Whatever your answer is, I'll accept it, but I need to know. I felt anger rise within me at these words, and I walked to the window to breathe some fresh air. After I took a few deep inhales, I finally turned around to face him and gave him my answer in a firm voice. On the one hand, my presence here isn't a coincidence. The Emperor celebrates, or rather was about to celebrate, his birthday in 2 days. Half of the Empire's noblemen are here. It's undeniable, and I can't read. It's undeniable that the event had presented the perfect opportunity to strike. The palace is swarming with unknown guards and servants. It's much harder to provide security in these circumstances. Exactly. On the other hand, your suspicions are an insult to my intelligence, advisor. After a regicide, the heir is always suspected. If I had really wanted to speed up fate, you better believe I would have been smarter about it. Marjorie taught me the rules of the game. I would never risk losing everything in such a foolish way. I know my ascension to the throne will already be difficult because I'm a woman. I'll state it plainly if it can relieve your doubts, but listen closely because I will not repeat myself. No, I did not have my father assassinated. My eyes trained on him, I crossed my arms, almost daring him to contradict me as I kept a lid on my fury. Alden seemed to gauge me for a moment and nodded in assent and apology. Forgive me, your grace. As soon as possible, I'll alert the Master of Murmurs, and we'll launch an investigation to uncover the truth and bring justice to your father. Would have preferred more vivid regrets, but under the circumstances, this was enough, and I felt my anger slowly fade away. I accept your apology. Let's not speak of this again. There are more urgent things to do. The news will, no doubt, make quite a commotion. You've asked us to swear allegiance to you. I assume you will try to claim your rightful place as heir, your grace. Yes, it's my destiny. I heaved a deep sigh and mustered all my determination to answer him without leaving any doubts as to my intentions. I realized a while ago that this was my destiny. Whether I like it or not, I don't really have a choice, and I'm not one to do things half-heartedly. Excuse me. I know there aren't many people in the direct line of succession, but if you truly don't want to, I believe one of your bastard brothers would do the trick. You know full well that my cousins would covet the position. This would mean the start of a succession war that would drown the kingdom in fire and blood. Even if by some miracle the nobility came out in favor of one of my half-brothers, there's no guarantee that it would all go well. They know nothing of politics. They be nothing more than puppets, or even worse, incompetents. By birth, I have a responsibility to the people of this country, and I don't intend to shirk it. In any case, even if I were to retire to my state to manage it, I would still be a potential threat to the reign. I'll never be safe, even if I were to completely relinquish my right to the throne. There's no doubt about it, I have to be the next empress. Only time will tell, but I think I am the best possible choice under the circumstances. I don't doubt that, your grace. In fact, I'm rather relieved to see you have already thought about it. Like you said, our country needs stability. We can't get away with a weak-willed monarch on the throne. And I'm sure you'll be a wonderful empress, Lydia. His words were barely a whisper, but I was sure of what I had heard, and I felt my cheeks redden a little. He seemed embarrassed by his own boldness and blushed more violently than me, while I flashed him a smile to reassure him. It had been years since I had last heard him call me by my name. Even if I had no doubts about my own abilities, it was always refreshing to see the trust he gave me. I cleared my throat and regained my composure so I could give my orders. This would be a long night. Who else knows about the assassination for now? Alexander seemed surprised by my question and frowned a bit while searching his mind. Well, I found the body. I immediately went to warn the advisor, and both of us rushed to see you. The only ones who know about it are the guards who were patrolling with me and your father's personal maid, who was passing by. We knew it would be bad to attract attention, so I had her discreetly sent to the dungeon for interrogation. How about the guards who were stationed before my father's door? Both are dead. I also had their corpses taken to the dungeon for examination. Paced the room, lost deep in thought. You've done well. Now we have to keep it all secret. It's imperative that no one else hears about it. Your Grace. This won't be an easy secret to keep. Obviously, we won't be able to do that forever. I only need a few days so I can stay ahead of my detractors. Alden looked thoughtful for a few moments, then he nodded. I see. So you want to act before everyone else, which should give you the upper hand. Exactly. Very smart. I have no doubt that some people will want to take advantage of the situation. Even if you are unquestionably the rightful heir, your place will be fought over. But if you don't give them time to rest, that can make things a great deal easier. That's what I was thinking too. I love it if the situation was more straightforward, but this is a little white lie, and the alternative is the chaos of a wildly disputed succession. Alden nodded, and I continued developing the rest of my plan. In the meantime, pretend that His Majesty is not feeling well. Investigate discreetly. I see. I'll order my men to stay silent. Also ensure that they haven't said a word so far. About that, it might be wiser to ensure that they can't talk at all. Low-grade staff is known for its gossiping. Even the guards. My men are trustworthy. They would never disobey. Would you be willing to bet on that, if it could jeopardize the plans of your new empress, to whom you have only just sworn allegiance? And that maid, can you also guarantee that she'll keep quiet? His teeth clenched, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword, and Alexander shook his head. The weight of Alden's words had also fallen heavily on my shoulders, and I observed both men well, contemplating my next steps. This decision is yours to make, Your Grace, but I strongly advise you to silence them for good. Alden was right. The most effective way to ensure someone stayed quiet was to have them killed. However, there could be other alternatives to consider. Such a decision couldn't be taken lightly because whatever I decided, I couldn't afford to regret it. Oh. Alright, so there's a cost. Have them kill, we'll pretend they were collateral damage to the assassin. I'm sorry, Alexander. Show their loyalty by promising them a much better position once I'm crowned. Even if they were really tempted to talk about what happened, this should be good enough motivation. And when you explain to them that they mustn't say a word, give them a few coins and promise them the secret has been revealed. In the meantime, send them on a vacation away from here. We'll do ensure their loyalty. I saw Alexander sigh in relief and imperceptibly loosen up. Alden, however, shrugged and bowed to me. That could work, yes. Time will tell. I have faith. Besides, if I'm right, I'll be surrounded by trustworthy people, which is always useful. I'd spoken with determination, perfectly hiding my own doubts. Humans are unpredictable in nature. It was a bet, and I could only hope it would pay off. In any case, even if the servants talked and the rumor escaped, I still had my chances. The advantage I was building would be precious to me, but it wasn't the only weapon in my arsenal. Can I count on you, Alexander? He straightened into a military stance and immediately bowed. Of course, Your Grace. I will do my best to convince them you've made the right decision. Without further ado, he bowed once more and left the room with a heavy step. Alden seemed to be lost in thought for a moment, giving me time to come to my senses before he bowed down in turn. I must at least inform the Master of Murmurs of the situation so that we may launch an investigation. I nodded, aware of our lead spy's discretion as well as his efficiency. Once that is done, I'll come to you to plan the rest of your ascent. Once more, I nodded in approval, glad to be offered a little interlude that will allow me to gather my thoughts. And to dress decently while I was at it. After all, even if the coronation hadn't taken place yet, deep within me, I knew it. I felt it. I was the Empress. Chapter 1, Long Live the Empress! Day 8, morning. That's a jump. Alright, hydration break. The sun had been up for a few hours, promising a beautiful day, but I knew I wouldn't be able to appreciate it. Now that the rush of adrenaline from the news had passed, all I had left were doubts on the days to come, which were going to be exhilarating as much as terrifying. It literally just flips. Anyway, I was gambling my future along with Calidia's, and that was a big deal. I had spent the past few hours readying myself and refining the details of my plan to appease the latent nervousness as best I could. That didn't help me shake off the main preoccupation, the servants. Like Alden had said, I had made a risky decision. I'd been torturing myself for hours, wondering if it was worth it. I I was restless when I heard the knock and leapt to the door, opening it for Alden and letting him in. Your Grace, we have followed your orders. I hadn't seen though he was accompanied by the Master of Murmurs, who came in after him. A slight discomfort washed over me. His role inside the palace was vital, but since I was a child, I had been terrified of his hidden face and the mysterious aura that surrounded him. Nevertheless, my discomfort turned into amazement when I saw him remove his hood as if it were nothing and turn to face me. My brain had pictured the worst for years, and it was very unsettling to finally be able to put a face to that man. I realized he wasn't as monstrous as I had imagined. In fact, I was so shocked that it made me forget the reason for my visitor's presence, which seemed to greatly amuse the Master of Murmurs. Is there a problem, Your Grace? Oh, it's just, I didn't know that you could show your face. To be honest, I do what I want, but in principle, I only remove my hood in presence of my sovereign and their close collaborators. Though I like to entertain the mystery and anonymity that comes with the job, it would be far too dangerous for me to never reveal my face. Some people might use that to usurp my identity. I see. Though it was disconcerting, it was also rather reassuring to see that a man as important as the Master of Murmurs already acknowledged me as his sovereign. Alden cleared his throat to recall me to my duty, and I suddenly remembered the reason for the two men's presence, which immediately made my anxiety flare up. To keep myself from staring at the Master Spy, I faced the advisor and fully focused on him. Did everything go well? My anxiety must have been conspicuous, because even if I was doing my best to put on a confident expression... What was that? It must have been conspicuous, even if I was doing my best to put on a confident expression. Okay. The servants seemed convinced by your offer. They left the palace without complaining, so I suppose we can count that as a win. Despite all that, it's still a bit early to be sure of anything. I gave the Master of Murmurs and Alexander the task of keeping a close eye on the situation. Master of Murmurs slowly nodded in assent. We'll know more tomorrow, but for the time being, there's nothing more to report. I lifted my eyes to meet my advisors and flashed Alden a reassuring smile. Clearly, he read my emotions better than I had thought, and I couldn't allow myself to visibly waver at such a critical time. I know that, and what's done is done. Now we must focus on the future. Bring the High Priest to the council room. I need him to contact the Quadrator. Alexander is a pious man. Are you sure it's a good idea to confide in him? Everyone likes to think that the devout never lie, but one doesn't obtain a place like his without cheating a little. I admit that the idea of lying to him came to me for a fleeting moment, but to fool him would be a complete complex task, and I'll be needing his support when the time comes. The people put great stock in men of faith. Very well, Your Majesty. Will that be all? Yes, thank you. Afternoon. You summoned me, Your Grace. Yes, thank you for coming, Robert. Gestured for him to sit down while I settled behind my father's imposing desk. Like I predicted, my behavior made him lift a curious brow, but I pretended not to notice. Won't beat around the bush. My father, the Emperor, died during the night. Clearly, we had done a pretty good job at keeping that a secret, since the shock in his face seemed genuine. But what the how? Why am I just learning about it now? I need to pray for his soul. Tried to appease him with a wave of my hand, inviting him to sit back down, since he looked like he was about to get up. He was murdered. For the time being, we're keeping his death a secret, so we can investigate without causing any sort of panic. It was the Master of Murmurs' idea. He's convinced he'll be able to find the assassin more easily this way. Drowning in information, the High Priest slumped into his chair and took in my half-truths. Well, I assumed a sadness expression. It is truly a tragic situation. Keeping quiet and hiding my mourning is a very hard task for me. I know it's a lot to ask of you, but you need to keep this a secret. I want to do everything in my power to uncover the murderer, especially since I'm scared he could come after me. Once more, I was quite proud of the quivers in my voice, and my acting seemed to be effective since I saw a spark of compassion light up in his eyes. I understand now why the general was guarding your door like a common soldier. With a closed expression on my face, I nodded, searching for the right words. First, the main reason I've summoned you here is so that I can confide in you and ask you to pray for my departed father's soul. Of course, Your Majesty. I'll lock myself up in the great temple and dedicate myself to the task. My face still sad, I gave him a tight, grateful smile, but instead I felt relieved. His prayers should keep him busy enough that he wouldn't be tempted to reveal everything. Now I could move on to the true reason of his presence here. But before that, it saddens me, but I have another favor to ask of you. Of course, Your Grace. What is it? Well, Alden and I are afraid that all the upstarts across the kingdom will rush to the castle and try to usurp the throne as soon as my father's death is made public. In their greed, many forget that my line sits on the throne by the grace of the floor, so I'd like to send a letter to the Quadrider and have him support my coronation as well as reaffirm my legitimacy. Once more he stayed silent, and I tried to hide my worry behind a veil of sadness. I hated that my plans depended on a single person, but I didn't have a choice. Only rulers and high priests could hope to quickly reach the ultimate leader of the cardinals, and I technically wasn't empress yet. I understand, yes. You're Magnus V's only legitimate child. The throne should be yours. That said, I don't know if the Quadrider will approve of your advent. Perhaps if you were married, your candidacy would seem less inappropriate. But my body tensed up at his words, and it took all I had to conceal how irritated I was by this reminder. I knew I would be told such things. I had mentally prepared myself for it, but obviously it hadn't been enough. It's an issue, yes, and I'll do my best to find a fitting husband quickly, but you'll agree that I cannot entrust the throne of Calidia to just anyone. I have plenty of suitors, but I need some time to study each and every one of them. That's not something that can be done in just a couple of days or even weeks. In the meantime, we do need someone to lead the country and make sure it doesn't sink into chaos. And if a regent were to be appointed, I'm afraid he might refuse to give the throne back to me and my husband, which would lead the whole country to a bloodbath. No one wants to see another era of murderous plots like during Magnus III's time. You're right, Your Grace. We cannot let such a tragedy befall us. I'll go write a letter to the Quadrider right away to express support for your coronation and explain our situation. Satisfied, I let out a sigh of relief. Thank you for your support, High Priest Robert. It means a lot to me. Swiftly opened one of the desk drawers and pulled out a thin sealed letter. While I was waiting for you, I humbly wrote a few words destined for the Quadrider. We've never met, and I hope this would help him get to know me a little, as well as reassure him of my faith in the Four. I was thinking that perhaps you would be so kind as to add it to your own correspondence. Once more, he seemed to be caught off guard, but he smiled instantly and enthusiastically. Of course, Your Grace. It's a great idea. Relieved, I gave him the letter in question while thanking him once more for his support and help in these unprecedented times. I only hoped he didn't have the audacity to break the seal, because even if it did contain a few cliches on my virtue, the letter was mostly made promises that could only actually motivate the Quadrider. Alright, oh gosh. I knew that gold made the world turn around. Promised to have the donation in Temple Meridian, knowing his taste for luxury. When I was knowing that I needed support, I had used a few resources at my disposal to observe him quickly. I learned something that could stain his reputation. We'll do that one. Indeed, I had discovered that he was responsible of a death, a woman who worked in the Meridian's Great Temple. I would have liked something a little more concrete, because from what I had been told, even if it was directly responsible through negligence, it wasn't a plot that would make the crowds go wild. Only the fact that she was a woman of faith played in my favor, and explained why they had wanted to conceal the incident in the first place. At least I had gathered enough details to make him believe I was an exceedingly well-informed person. I was certain that the desire to preserve his reputation, along with the proof of my knowledge, would be enough to convince him. To play with a man as powerful as the Quadrider, I wasn't talking about his possible connections to the gods, but his actual worldly power, was a risky move, but it was all worth it. The dice had been cast. I could only hope for things to go well, prepare the field for my conquest of the Calidian nobility. Evening. This is something where I can see our resources. Resources. 15 influence. I see. Despite my desire to act, for the first time, I couldn't do anything but wait for the Quadrider's answer. Even if the letter had left that very morning, Meridian was far away, and I knew I couldn't hope for an answer for at least 3 days. I had to chomp at the bit and act naive. My first thought was to mingle with the court, so I could clear my head, but then pretending that nothing was up and feeding rumors to justify my father's absence was more frustrating than doing nothing. Even Marjorie's presence irritated me. Despite her advanced age, as soon as she turned her inquisitive eyes onto me, I had the impression she managed to perceive the truth. And so I had taken refuge in the library, hoping to read a little. But in all honesty, even if I managed to unscramble a few words, my thoughts were far away and my mind was replaying the events of the previous night. Asking myself again and again if I had done the right thing. Your Grace. As if he suddenly realized where we were, the Master of Murmurs repeated his interjection in a low, albeit as just a zealous tone. Your Grace, we have an urgent problem on our hands. This preamble was enough to make me abandon my boring reading. I put down the book, ensuring that there weren't any indiscreet ears in the library before I invited him to continue. After he also made sure no one was around, he pulled back his hood and resumed his explanations. As you know, I've asked to keep an eye on the 3 people aware of your father's death. However, barely 24 hours have passed, and I've already been told that the maid immediately went to a noble, the Baron Torben of Levalliot, instead of leaving town. I conducted an investigation. I'm almost positive the two are in a relationship. I've interrogated her colleagues who confirmed that she's had a rich benefactor for a few months already, and everything hints at his name. I didn't really care about my servant's romantic endeavors, but I wanted to know where he was going with this. Are you afraid she'll speak? Yes, I'm afraid that the Baron will want to use that information to glean more power. Is he trying to blackmail us? No, we've had nothing of the sort, but tonight he's holding a party to which half of the nobles currently in the capital are invited. Can't be a coincidence. No event justifies for such a party to be improvised. It's improper. I admit the situation is very odd, but do we have any proof? Fortunately, no, Majesty. Only suspicions. Took in a few deep breaths while I pondered the situation and calculated the risks. If these allegations happen to be true, I would be stuck between a rock and a hard place. Not only would my plan to gain time fail utterly, but everyone would know of my deception. Moreover, if she didn't speak, now that I knew of this maid's allegiance, I wasn't sure it was a good idea to give her a better position down the line. That would give her more opportunities to spy on me for the Baron. What are our options? There aren't many, Majesty. Either we do nothing and wait to see what happens while preparing to counteract any possible rumors, or we have them both assassinated to eliminate any risks of leaks. But the Baron is an influential man. There are far fewer chances of his death passing unnoticed than that of a simple servant. Tired, I massaged my temples to help me think about the best course of action in this situation. Death was most definitely the best way to stop someone from talking, but the reason I wanted to avoid such methods in the first place was because they disgusted me, and they could well have unwelcome repercussions for me. Would allying myself with the Baron be a possibility? It's true that this information will give him power, but not as much as having the Empress owe him a favor. I think it could work, but do you really want to start your rule indebted to such an ambitious man? That was indeed the risk. I could always double-cross him once the danger had passed, but that would undeniably have after effects. Do you have any idea of what he wants? I'd like to know what I'm getting myself into. If I had a few days, I would have been able to tell you, but I can't answer you in time for the party. Sighing once more, I closed my eyes to better contemplate my options. Alright. Oh, there's one that's free. When one plays, one must expect to lose. I'm ready to accept the consequences of my actions, even won't be easy. I'm afraid of trying to fix things will only make them worse. I don't want to fall into such a vicious cycle. Wait to see what happens. I suppose having to resort to this because the servant has been trustworthy, I don't have much of a choice. What matters most to solve this? The Baron demands more than he is owed after all is said and done. We'll decide what to do with him, but he might have behaved reasonably, which would mark the start of a fruitful alliance. What do I want to do? Do I want to... I don't want to do the murder. I don't agree with the murder. I'll just wait to see what happens. An audacious choice. I must admit I'm a little surprised. I didn't expect you to be the kind of woman who put her faith in the hands of the four. If that is what you want, so be it. I'll inform Alden of your decision. Slowly I nodded. So can I, like... Okay, yeah, you can go back to a choice if you, like, don't like it. If that's what you want, so be it. I'll inform Alden of your decision. Slowly I nodded, while telling myself that indeed a few prayers to Horrell wouldn't be a bad idea under the circumstances. Yes, he's the most qualified for this kind of speech. He needs to be prepared to defend this against rumors if your suspicions prove correct. I will let you know once I have more news. I'll send a spy there, which should allow us to stay ahead of our detractors by a few hours. Thank you. I'm counting on you. Master of Murmurs gave me an elegant bow and departed, leaving me alone once more, with doubts gnawing at my mind. Wait for the end of the day with more nervousness than usual, unable to concentrate, fearing the arrival of the Master of Murmurs as much as I hoped for it. Night. It was already late when the Master of Murmurs knocked on my door to inform me of the evolution of the situation. Although it was late at night, I hadn't managed to close my eyes at all, and weighed the outcome with anxiety despite the detachment that I had wanted to display earlier that day. Your Grace. Oh, die after making a choice you could have survived. So what you're saying is, considering I just got that achievement, we're not gonna make that choice because apparently I died. We'll do the third one. I'd like to share your optimism, Your Grace, but the Baron of Levallois never seemed to be a reasonable man to me. Well, in any case, I've been to your will. Since Advisor Alden is more adept at this sort of negotiations, I will inform him and let him lead the discussions. Nevertheless, I'll stay at the ready in case the Baron refuses to listen to reason. Very well, I'm counting on you. The Master of Murmurs gave me an elegant bow and departed, leaving me alone once more. Blah, 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 blah. Nighttime. It's already late when Alden knocked on my door to inform me of the evolution of the situation. I was convinced a man like the Baron would be in favor of some arrangement, but there were so many things that could go wrong. Let's save. Cancel. Back. There are so many things that could go wrong. Your Grace, I've spoken with the Baron of Levallois, who turned out to be quite stingy with this information. To my greatest shame, I'm unable to tell you what he knows exactly. He's remained very vague on this subject, but he clearly hinted at having information that could harm you. I did as you wished and suggested that if he supports your ascension to the throne, he'll have your eternal gratitude. He accepted in principle, but he seemed doubtful that you intend to uphold your side of the bargain. He's asking for a guarantee. A guarantee? Alden nodded with a sigh. He wants a document written and signed by your hand to make this alliance official. I couldn't blame him for doubting my honor. After all, I considered breaking my promise if the price to pay for upholding it was too high, but what he asked me was impossible. Can't do that. That would mean admitting to my schemes. At the moment, all he's got is the word of a servant and no proof that I'm directly involved. Won't hand it to him on a silver platter. I wholeheartedly agree with you, but those are his terms. Exasperated, I took a deep breath before grabbing a sheet of paper and some ink from my desk. I'll write him a letter in which I declare that I owe him a favor for services rendered without giving any details. Should be enough to prove my goodwill. If it doesn't suit him, it means deep down he never wanted to commit to this arrangement in the first place. You won't have any choice but to use your... We won't have any choice but to use your methods. Very well, Majesty. I'll bring it to him right away. Thank you, Alden. I'm sorry to use you as a courier. It's beneath you. He gave an amused laugh. Oh, you'd be surprised, Majesty. This has often been my exact role. I dozed off, seated at my desk, when someone knocked on my door once more, and I woke up with a start. So, Alden, how'd it go? It seemed he had spent hours on the task, which was rather worrisome, but he had come back without the letter I had written. He accepted this compromise. For the time being, he doesn't want anything in particular. I trust him to let us know when he's ready to claim his favor. And the party, it must be in full swing at this time of night. I don't know if his main goal was to harm you, but in any case, he had another excuse ready. He announced his engagement to a noble from Vargas, Dame Lilia of Valentum. I nodded with a sigh. I didn't know when this would all come back to bite me again, but at least the situation was under control. Thank you for your help, Alden. My pleasure, Your Grace. We'll continue to keep a close eye on him, but you can relax for now. Smiling, I nodded, aware that I was in dire need of sleep after so many strong emotions. Day 10? Your Grace, this is a little premature, but should you become Empress, you will need to manage the kingdom's policies. I'd like to make sure that you're ready for such a task. One can always learn more. As you already know, the kingdom's policies influence how your subjects, noble or otherwise, view you, but also what resources will be available to us. You can set tax rates for the people and the nobility. As you may have guessed, the higher they are, the less happy the people will be, but the faster coffers will fill up. Excuse me. There are many other things much more subtle. For example, you can decide how open to trade our borders should be, or which sectors of the economy you'd like to focus on. We must also consider how to protect ourselves from our neighbors, especially bearing in mind Vargas's warlike inclinations. But maintaining an army is very, very expensive. As such, investing in diplomacy may offer better results in the long run. And finally, we have to manage the priests. Their influence on the people is immense, and they have infrastructure all over the nation. Offerings made to them are never wasted. We set up regular periods of time during which we collect earnings, but there will be a short delay before the consequences of any change you make can be seen. The story alternates with phases of gameplay, which are triggered between two scenes. During these phases, you will be able, among other things, to modify your kingdom's general policies. Gains will be distributed at the end of the gameplay phase. Is that clearer now? Yes. Yes, even if it's all very theoretical. That's true, but the best way to approach the subject is in a more concrete manner is to look into it yourself. Even if I'll only be doing this work after my coronation, may I try a hand at it now? I'm sure there are things I'd like to change in my father's policies. Alright. Everything is kind of like in the middle. People -5, because I guess resources. Exploration of raw resources. This is like nothing minus on the people, huh? It's also not. I guess it's not plus money. It's like, I guess that gives me plus on people. I just keep it all the same? Sure. That sounds most excellent to me. -5 people is +2 goods, +1 money, +2 religion, yada yada. Your Grace, Your Grace! Dawn had barely arisen when I heard the kerfluffle at the door and immediately recognized Robert's voice. Got up with a groan and quickly slipped on a dress, trying to make myself presentable before opening the door. High Priest, what's going on? I tried to remain as neutral as possible, but I was burning up with a mix of anxiety and excitement, so I had a solid guess as to what this was about. The Quadrator, he answered, Your Majesty. Nervous, he handed me 2 letters bearing the recognizable seal of His Holiness. Name is written on them. I didn't dare open them, Your Highness. Exhilarated, I looked at the 2 pieces of paper that were about to seal my future. One seemed official, while the other was explicitly for my eyes only. I would have liked to be alone when reading them both, but clearly had taken Robert all he had not to break the wax seal on the official letter, and he now stared at me impatiently. My throat was dry as I grabbed the paper cutter to open the correspondence, and my heart was beating so fast I had the impression everyone in the room could hear it. Oh, okay. Lady Lydia of Taranfell, daughter of Magnus V of Taranfell, the fierce Emperor of Calydia. Before I have spoken, I've recognized you as the legitimate heir of the crown of Calydia by virtue of your blood and despite your gender. By this decree, I convey the word of the gods. May your governance be respected by all, the just and the pious. May your rule prosper and never stray far from the force faith. Firmer Quadrator by the grace of the Four. I was shaking so hard, I felt my legs give in, and I had to sit on my bed so I didn't fall over. I had done everything in my power to make this moment happen, but now it was upon me. I was engulfed by all the emotions I accumulated in the past week. Robert seemed to understand me, and he bowed to leave me a few long seconds so I could take in the Quadrator's words. Finally, he spoke up. That's marvelous, Your Majesty. I knew the Four would acknowledge your legitimacy. Almost timidly, I nodded and tried to recover my usual composure. With the Quadrator's support, my coronation was sure to happen, but didn't that mean I was rid of enemies? That didn't mean I was rid of enemies or other contenders. I couldn't let my guard down yet. Yes, the time has come for everyone to know the truth. Gather the nobles in the castle at dawn. Prepare the pigeons. He nodded, a grave expression on his face. Yes, we can't wait any longer. Too grave, your father's death couldn't have been kept indefinitely in any case. It's true that his absence had been going on for a while, and a possible illness worried people just as much as a possible death. I was fortunate that these letters hadn't taken too long to arrive. I'll be there. I just need to finish getting ready. Of course, Your Majesty. All the bells rung, and at such an early time. At such an early time, I don't suppose we can gather everyone in less than an hour. I approved with a polite nod, and soon I watched him leave and close the door. Finally, on my own, I collapsed on the bed and let myself gloat. I whooped in pure childish joy as I read the quadrator's letter over and over again. I knew that I had plenty of challenges ahead of me, but this was my first victory against traditions and intended to savor it for as long as I could. Only after a few long minutes had passed did I decide to open the second letter, which was addressed to me personally. Lady Lydia of Terranfell, be aware that your threats cannot shake the faith that the believers have in me. Only my wish to preserve them from potentially bloody conflicts has guided my decision not to be offended by your contemptible lies and to support you despite them. Keep in mind, nonetheless, I don't appreciate these methods, and you have made yourself a dangerous enemy, Lady Lydia. One cannot defy the floor with impunity. I got up with a sigh and held the parchment over the candle long enough for it to catch fire before throwing into the cold fireplace. I expected a reaction of that sort. I preferred not to leave behind more traces of my methods than necessary. Needless to say, I didn't regret a thing. Even if he acted unconcerned, I fully believed that my threats had helped to sway him. Now it was the court I had to sway, and I knew this wasn't going to be an easy task. Day 18? Make sure not to overexert yourself, Lydia. You're spending your days locked up in this office. You should get out a bit to clear your head. Come take a walk with this old lady. I had left the door open, and although I hadn't heard Marjorie come over to me, I wasn't surprised, since her perfume, which she applied too liberally, had filled the room. I almost felt nostalgic for a moment. Contrary to what she seemed to suggest, I wasn't here for pleasure. I was overwhelmed. Invitations, solicitations, promises. I slept the last 3 days flattering Halidian nobility to ensure that nothing would interfere with a coronation in 3 weeks' time. I still had a lot to do. Oh, perhaps you can fool everyone else, but I know you're far from being an old lady, Marjorie. My reply made her laugh, a hoarse and joyous sound that belied what I had just said. Oh, I still have the same wit I had when I was 20, but I'm afraid my whining bones disagree with you, sweetheart. Come on, don't be cruel. You already broke my poor heart when you didn't let me in on the secret. I put my quill down with a sigh and closed the inkwell, hoping its content would not dry up. She had taught me many things. Even if I had grown stronger than her in a few areas, it's obvious that she still used guilt like no other. She almost made me feel bad for hiding my father's death from her. You know full well I didn't have a choice. The information had to be disclosed to as few people as possible. I know, sweetheart, but I would have liked to be there for you. These past few days mustn't have been easy. No, they weren't indeed. As promised, I quietly walked by Marjorie's side through the garden, but we couldn't take one step before some servant or noble offered me their condolences. I'm so tired of pretending to be sad. I know your father was a flawed man. She paused, looking at me as she seemed to hesitate to say something. I looked at her intrigued. There was so much contempt in her voice when she spoke of his flaws that she obviously knew something about him, something I probably didn't. But no matter what anyone says, he was your family, your blood. You shouldn't hate him like that. It's not healthy. Now, especially now that he's dead. I sensed from her tone that I'd get nothing more from her, at least not today, and I didn't insist, draping myself once again in my indignity. No, that's too easy. You can't just die and expect that all your mistakes will be forgiven. It's not as if he chose to die. And so, it doesn't change anything. She sighed, and I decided to change the subject before I had to listen to another lecture on the importance of family bonds. Since we're speaking of forgiveness, I need your help. Suspicious, she frowned, although she kept walking calmly between the flower beds. I would like it if you gave me Fear Castle. That old elaborate fortress, what for? Pretending to admire some insects that were flying around the planters, I hesitated for a second. I needed the fortress to buy the Faram's loyalty, but Marjorie held a deep hatred for them. I didn't like lying to her, but I couldn't run the risk that she refused my request. Tell her the truth, even if she won't like it. I need it because I'm going to give it back to the Faram. On hearing my words, Marjorie froze, trembling with anger. You want to give it back to those vile traitors! Do you know how many men died storming it? Do you know what this fortress cost me? I knew she would react that way. Even though the war had ended about 20 years ago, she still bore painful memories of it. Yes, I know all that, but that all took place before my birth. It's time we move forward and reconcile with the Faram, lest we repeat the mistakes of the past. I don't want another Faram revolt under my rule. I need their support for my coronation, and to obtain that support, I need Fiacasta. You know just as well as I do that it's only a ruin now, an old pile of rubble left on steep and barren land. It's nothing more than a symbol. My old aunt grumbled for a few long minutes, but she was forced to concede my point, even if it cost her. Do what you want, but believe me, once you become Empress, I'll call in the favor. Thank you, Marjorie. I knew I could count on you. Relieved I finally let out the breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Knowing the affection Marjorie held for me, I knew that I'd end up convincing her, but as I had a meeting with the Faram heir in 4 days, I didn't have a lot of room for errors. With one last issue weighing on my heart, I continued my walk with a bounce in my step, forgetting for a few minutes the court's problems and plots. Day 22. Skip. This is my first time ever meeting Theodore Faram. I had heard him described as a cold and distant man, but I still didn't expect him to be so glacial. I waited for him to deign reply to my greeting, as courtesy demanded, but the silence between us was deafening. He only stood there staring at me impassive, without even so much as a good morning or a nice to meet you. I had to keep smiling not to lose face. I had better things to do than engage in the staring contest. Consequently, I swallowed my pride and gestured to one of the stairs around the staff table where a large map of Kalidia had been laid out. I imagine you must be tired after such a long trip. Please, sit down. I was going to say standing there, but he did finally sit down without another word. Without any word, apparently. Well, I took a seat not too far from him. Like I said in my letter, I'd like for the Tiranfil and the Faram to reconcile. The tensions between our two families have lasted long enough, and I imagine your son decided to make peace has nothing to do with your upcoming coronation. The Monteliet are eating out of your hand, and the Vuelter will never support you, which means you very much need us. Coming as he was from a lineage with a somewhat barbaric reputation, he did a fairly clever analysis of the situation. I didn't let that stop me. Very much need is a bit strong. Should I remind you that I have the support of the Order, and by extension the Four, the people will follow me. That said, I do wish for my coronation to go as smoothly as possible, and the rest of my rule as well. I'd like to avoid bloodshed altogether, if possible, and I fear that the ancestral enmity between our two families might lead us to just that. Neither you nor I were born when the Faram revolt took place. It's up to us to decide if we want to perpetrate this cycle of conflict, and if we want to build something new. He took on a thoughtful expression and observed me with renewed interest. It's easy for you to forget. You're on the side of the victors. You haven't been rehashing your resentment for 20 years. Precisely. Wouldn't it be easier for you to forget as well, especially if it's been haunting you for that long? Even if we were inclined to consider your offer of a reconciliation, how could we trust you? I won't give you a history lesson, but that revolt didn't happen for nothing. He was following me exactly where I was leading, and it took me some effort to repress a smile and keep a businesslike countenance. Firstly, I'm not the same person as my father or my grandfather. It's unfair to distrust me as a result of their actions. Secondly, I'm ready to make a gesture of goodwill if the Faram are ready to make one as well. I'm listening. If you openly support my ascent to the throne, ready to return to your family the Fiacastel Citadel and the lands that go with it. This time I savored the true surprise in his eyes when I handed him the deed I had taken the time to prepare. As you know, it was confiscated after revolt since it's located at a strategic crossroads between Tiranfil and Monteliet. I thought it would be a strong gesture to return it to you, but also quite a symbol of trust. After glancing over the signed pledge, Theodore looked at me once more with defiance this time. There's no doubt that my family will appreciate the gesture. I was already basking in my victory when he continued, his voice cold. But for me, it only makes me see that you're on one of those politicians ready to use every dirty trick in the book if it will give you what you want. Been warned that you're the rightful heir of that snake who used to lead the Montsville yet, but now I'm seeing it with my own eyes. So yes, indeed, we will accept your offer and support your coronation, because unlike you, we stick to our word. But you should know you're not fooling me. I'll remain at the palace to make sure you don't stab us in the back as soon as you've achieved your goals. In the end, his analysis of the situation, or indeed of my character, wasn't as clever as I had thought. I was ambitious, there was no denying that. I wasn't shy about it either, but my desire to make peace was just as sincere. Stay in the castle if you wish. Dukes are welcome here at any time. But you'll get eaten alive by the court if you always speak your mind so plainly, my lord. He shrugged condescendingly before getting up. Oh, I'm very capable of defending myself, Majesty. I just choose not to use the same venom as you do. That doesn't mean I don't know how to protect myself from its sting. No one liked being called a snake, but even if it was unpleasant to be treated with such hostility by someone to whom I had never done anything, I got what I wanted. I didn't want to risk making him change his mind by starting an argument. Time will tell. I do hope you'll change your mind about me. As long as the Faram uphold their end of the bargain, you're free to think whatever you like. Don't say that as if you were doing me a favor, Your Grace. Even empresses don't have dominion over people's thoughts. In order to keep me from having the last word of our pointless sparring, he immediately turned on his heel and slammed the door. Furious, I was engaged in deep breathing exercises when Alden walked in. How did things go with Theodore Faram? I shrugged with a sigh. I suppose it was all right. At least the Faram should support my coronation. That's all that matters. How about you? Did you manage to convince Leon? As you suspected, he's not inclined to support you. Apparently he and his brother fear that Calydia will become a second Izeria. I raised my eyes to the sky, not hiding my exasperation at these words, as if it were enough for a woman to lead the empire for us to become a matriarchy. Have you at least convinced him not to openly oppose the coronation? Yes, as you suggested. I implied that a civil war wouldn't be good for business and that you were easy to manipulate. Was that enough? Yes and no. The man's smarter than I thought. He took this as an opportunity to claim the position of treasurer. Treasurer? Look at him go! Since he believes you are incompetent, he thinks that the only way for him to ensure that the country stays on the right track, and that the Volador's economical interests are preserved. Upset, I bit my lips while I pondered the implications of such a nomination. I didn't want him to stand in my way at every council meeting, but there was no valid reason for me to refuse this privilege either. Hydration. I mentioned before asking for the position, he encouraged his current treasurer to retire. And that's correct. A pretty house by the seaside is waiting for him, and now he can't wait to be gone. I imagine we don't have a choice then. I'll summon Leon tomorrow and pretend to be a naive ingenue. He's look happy to let him take on big responsibilities. I sighed heavily, and Alden stepped towards me with a discreetly amused smile. Are you sure you'll manage? Manage? Plainly, easily influenced ingenue. I sighed, offering him a reassuring smile. It would not be fun having tea with such a conservative man, but there was nothing insurmountable about it. Oh, don't worry about me. I can play dumb when I need to. I've spent my whole life appearing less dangerous than I really am. I should be able to pretend just this once. He might have some nasty surprises down the line, however. He nodded with a gleam of pride in his eyes. I trust you then. Day 25. Your Grace, news of your nomination to the throne has spread quickly. We've received a letter addressed to you from the Queen Maeva of Azeria. My respects, Empress of Calydia. I wish to write to you so I could congratulate you on your recent nomination to the throne, as well as offer my condolences for your father's death. Assuming power is a heavy responsibility, but I've been told that you are very capable, and I know that Calydia is in good hands. Calydia and Azeria have always maintained solid diplomatic relations. I hope that they will continue and prosper under your rule. Up until now, the matriarchs have always been opposed to non-commercial negotiations. But your nomination has made them curious. We dare to believe that in your presence, my emissaries and myself will cease to be subjected to the patronizing condescension that your predecessors invariably displayed, and that made my country's past rulers so wary of further interactions. The gods whisper to me that your ascension to the throne signals the dawn of a new era for the continent. Therefore, I wish to support you as much as I can. With the matriarch's assent, I have decided to mandate an emissary, whose role it will be to liaise between our two nations. Her name is Asha Izabus. She's an exceptional woman who I hope will be welcomed into your palace as she deserves. With all my sympathy, Maeve, Queen of Azyria, who has the same exact signature as the other one. I know it's just the font, but it's funny. That's wonderful news. I'll need as many allies as possible during my rule. Indeed, diplomacy is a delicate art, but it's fundamental for Calydia's prosperity. You'll need to woo the neighboring countries and ensure their goodwill towards us. Diplomacy is not available in the demo. But we'll talk about that later. For now, we have a coronation to organize. Day 36? That's a jump. The big day has finally come. Impatient and nervous, I pace my bedroom while checking my hair and my outfit for the umpteenth time. What's that? My hair and my outfit for the umpteenth time. Nothing was easy, as per usual. I was supposed to display poise, elegance, and grandeur, well, all while remaining humble. All right then. Despite all that, I felt ready and dignified, and I only waited to hear from Alexander, who would escort me since my father wasn't in a state to do so. Time was passing by at an infuriatingly slow pace when finally he knocked and walked into the room, clad in his ceremonial attire. That armor and the pompous cape that went with it didn't suit him. I suppressed a smile when I saw him squeezed into it. "Ready, Your Grace?" Almost timidly, I nodded while he politely bowed to let me pass in front of him. Then he followed suit, respectfully walking one step behind. Her Grace Lydia de Tyrrenfeld, Princess of Calydia, Duchess of Tyrrenfeld, Lady of Vermont, blessed by her el. I closed my eyes and savored this title that I was hearing for the last time. When the herald would announce me next, I would be Empress of Calydia. I didn't remember having ever seen the throne room this packed. Clearly, when I'd been told that the entire castle gathered here, it hadn't been an exaggeration. To try and hide my nervousness, I walked at a slow pace, my head held high, my eyes leveled at the throne. My curiosity slowly got the better of me, and while I tried to remain as dignified as I could, I let my gaze wander discreetly in search of familiar faces. Alden, of course, stood right next to my throne, his face impassive, but his eyes bright enough that I could see the pride reflected in them. Robert was there too, my future crown already held in his hands. He did his best to appear as imposing as his function required him to be. In the noble section, I recognized Leon of Voildor, surrounded by his family, conversing with the other nobles who were vaguely familiar to me. To my surprise, I also spotted Theodore leaning against a pillar, his gloomy aura seeming to hold people at bay so that he wasn't drowning in unknown faces. As I passed by her, Marjorie gave me a smile, and I felt her perfume reach me, calming me despite its loud scent. Finally, the last step stretched before me, and I suddenly realized I couldn't hear the crowd's hubbub anymore. The only sound was my heart beating in my temples. Ceremoniously, I knelt in front of this throne that was still forbidden to me. Soon I had cause to praise whomever had the brilliant idea to place a small cushion under my knees. The blessings were proceeding at an infuriatingly slow pace. I listened to them with only half an ear, but I still displayed my most serious and focused face to honor the solemnity of the ceremony. The day before, Robert asked me if I wanted to celebrate tradition by taking a name of one of my predecessors, if I'd rather start my own dynasty. We're going to keep. Her name would be Melisandre II. Keep your name! I understood the importance of traditions, but I was much too proud of who I was to give up my name, my identity. I wanted to carry it with pride for as long as I would rule. I didn't know the sermon by heart, but I knew it would soon be ending, since the whole place seemed to grow livelier. With each passing second, both the crowd and Robert's voice vibrated with renewed excitement until the key moment came. I closed my eyes and braced myself for the weight of the surprisingly light crown that he delicately placed upon my head. Rise up, Lydia the First de Tarenfell, Empress of Calidia, first of her name, Duchess of Tarenfell, Lady of Vermont, chosen by the Four and blessed by Harel. You shall bow no longer, since from this day and until your death, in the name of the gods, I entrust you with the charge of guiding your subjects and making Calidia shine bright for decades to come. It'd be cool if this was, like, centered. Like, with center alignment. Instead of the left aligning. Slowly I rose and turned around to sit on that throne that had been meant for me. Then I opened my eyes to look at the crowd. It suddenly went quiet and an almost religious silence settled in for a few seconds. Long live the Empress Lydia the First! Alexander's voice resounded next to me, oddly loud, as it shattered this almost dreamlike moment. Cheers arose from all sides in a spectacular chaos. The general enthusiasm was contagious, and I caught myself smiling, waving at the crowd with a bit too much vigor. Evening. Relatively modified to match an upcoming CG. Okay. Wait, but my hair! I wore my hair up. Oh, whatever. I turned that on. The party was in full swing. If I was still beaming, my head was starting to hurt with the incessant solicitations of people come to pay their respects. You should empty this glass into a flower pot and ask one of the servants to pour you grape juice instead. Or maybe I had too much wine. If I was being honest, I couldn't remember how many times my glass had been refilled, but one thing I knew, it never stayed empty. Even if Marjorie was probably right, I pouted. Come on, Marjorie. Am I not allowed to have a bit of fun? It's my coronation day after all. She shook her head with a tender smile. You can't do this precisely because it's coronation day, sweetheart. Some people might be subtler about it than others, but everyone is watching you and judging you. She was right, and I knew it. I had to let myself relax. Perhaps I let myself relax a bit too much, carried away by my enthusiasm. That acknowledgement didn't stop me from heaving a deep sigh of despair. Well, I didn't come here to coddle you. I know you're perfectly capable of managing the situation. I just wanted to officially congratulate you. No one deserved this title more than you, and you'll make an incredible empress. Her face sparkled with pride and affection. I felt my heart melt under her praise. Her opinion had always mattered a lot to me, and I felt myself go back to the little girl I once was, who always sought her approval. I hesitated for an instant, but finally I let myself gently hug her, making sure not to spill my glass on her in the process. Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you for everything. She kindly stroked my hair, and I stayed in her embrace for a few moments, just long enough to regain control of my emotions, which were threatening to make me cry. She gently patted my back to remind me of my duties, and I finally let go of her, my face now wearing a more neutral expression. Go on, sweetheart. I won't keep you any longer. People are queuing to talk to you. She was right. As much as they tried to hide it, many people stood nearby, waiting for an opportunity to pounce on me as soon as I'd be free. Quick as to the mark was a young woman I'd never seen before. One look at the pretty dreadlocks she sported, decorated with small golden jewels, told me her background. Magnificent coronation, Your Grace. Her melodious accent convinced me I was right, and I flashed her a courteous smile. Thank you. Lady Asha, are you not? She seemed surprised for a second, then her face lit up. Well, I'm flattered you recognized me before I could even introduce myself. I don't know who spoke of me to you, but I do hope they said good things. She gave a small laugh as to brush off this pleasantry, which I knew had a much deeper meaning. Girl, I had indeed heard a lot about her, both from Queen Maeva, who had warmly recommended her to me, and from Robert, who had tried to paint her as an ungodly heathen and temptress the minute she had set foot in the capital. Of course, your queen keeps showering you with praise. Allow me to return her kindness to tell you how fantastic Maeva is. She'll make a formidable ally. Her familiar way of talking about her ruler made me quirk an eyebrow, but I didn't mention it. After all, Azerian customs were much different from ours, and her relationship with her queen was none of my concern. As long as she didn't use the same casual tone when talking about Calidian nobility, there wouldn't be an issue. In any case, I do hope Calidia is to your liking, Lady Asha. Unfortunately, I still haven't had the time to visit your beautiful lands and to taste your many specialties. Therefore, the question may be a bit premature. She gave me a smile, but it didn't reach her ears, which made me see that her answer was an elegant way to not speak ill of the place without lying. Now that it was my castle and my nation, it did upset me a little, but I couldn't be mad at her for finding the place a bit drab. My father had never had a keen eye for interior design. I was about to ask her a mere futile question when Robert stepped into the space between us. The gesture was overtly rude, but his position allowed him to act in that manner. I turned away from Asha to listen to what he had to say. Your Majesty, please forgive me for interrupting, but I must speak with you on a topic of the utmost importance. He barely hid the dirty look he gave Asha. She understood the message and gracefully curtsied. I'll go breathe some fresh air in the gardens if you'll excuse me, Your Majesty. I mentally took note of where to find her if I wanted to continue the conversation and bowed to her in lieu of goodbye. I focused my attention on Robert, wondering with some trepidation if something bad had happened. What's going on? Don't worry, Your Majesty. Nothing that will spoil your night. Just want to make sure that you were taking my warnings about the Azerian diplomats seriously. I don't find her trustworthy at all. I had to hold back a sigh. It was quite distressing to see him go to such trouble only to interrupt my conversation with a foreign diplomat. Please be comforted. She wasn't inviting me to dance naked in the sea in honor of the snake goddess Seth. I said that in a playful tone, hoping to lighten the mood, but he looked even more upset. You should take this issue at heart. These people are insidious. They seem nice, but you let your guard down, and by the time you realize you fall into the trap of a witch, it's much too late. I didn't have the patience to hear more of this, and I took an offended expression. My faith for the four was sincere, and I was truly offended. I'd always relied on the gods, and I couldn't tolerate anyone implying that my convictions were unsteady, or that I'm so easily influenced given the importance of the order within Calidia. Shrouded in righteous anger, I gave Robert a withering look. Do you believe my faith could be so easily shaken, High Priest? Taken aback, he immediately softened and apologized profusely. I relaxed in turn. I'm taking note of your worries, and I promise I'll be careful, but you must also understand that you simply cannot say such things about the foreign guests, especially not in public. This could have serious diplomatic consequences. He scowled once more but didn't say a word, politely bowing instead. I understand, Your Grace. A short silence passed between us before he turned away, mumbling something about prayers he had to make. For the first time of the night, I found myself alone and no one came to talk to me, perhaps for fear of getting caught in the fallout from this tense conversation. I enjoyed that respite and decided to go talk to Asha. This may be me not wanting to do another male voice for a bit. I was deeply aware of how ironic it felt to meet up with Asha to continue our conversation. Robert's words buried in a deep, dark corner of my mind as if they had never existed in the first place. Like she had mentioned, she was enjoying the fresh breeze in the gardens. I had no trouble finding her. She was leaning against the balustrade of a gazebo. Casually, I came closer and I leaned next to her, admiring the stars. I'm terribly sorry for that rude interruption, but one can't keep the gods waiting, as the saying goes. The little phrase was supposed to lighten the mood, but Asha gave me an indecipherable look that piqued my curiosity. Forgive me, I know your customs, but some of them are very hard for me to grasp. You mean the fact we have different gods? To my great surprise, she shook her head, making her hair dance around her. No, we have so many gods, I wouldn't be surprised if yours existed in some way in our pantheon. It's rather the concept of priests that baffles me. Gods are all powerful beings, why would they lend their voice to fallible humans? If they have anything to say to anyone, ours speak directly to the person in question, without the risky interference of a go-between. Clearly I wasn't expecting that line of thinking, and my mind fogged up, as it was by alcohol, didn't help me find convincing arguments. It irritated me quite a bit, as I always disliked not having the final word. Asha must have mistaken the nature of my contrariety, and she flashed me her most beautiful, contrite smile. But I'm rambling. There's so many more interesting things to talk about, especially tonight. Like our magnificent coronation, or the delicious wine from the islands that you've been serving, for example. I usually wasn't one for small talk, but I couldn't get enough of her melodious accent, which emphasized her impeccable pronunciation. Oh, then I can't be voicing her. I don't have impeccable pronunciation. Almost by instinct, I swirled the contents of my wine glass, which I had been foolishly holding untouched since Marjorie had warned me. At least this time allowed me to get to know my interlocutor. You're right, it's good. It's of Azerian import, isn't it? She swirled the wine around in her own glass, her gesture practiced and skillful before taking a little sip, her eyes closed. Yes, without a doubt. Black Castle, even. Half doubtful, half impressed, I didn't hide my surprise. You can tell where it's from just like that? Yes, before working for Queen Mava, I was a trader in that field. In fact, my travels were the reason I discovered your culture and learned your language. Once more, I looked at her, intrigued and impressed. You sail? Numerous superstitions made it so that women were unwelcome on board of ships in Calidia. Just imagining her on the seas was breathtaking. Oh no, I don't have any seafaring skills. I'm incapable of reading a map or using a sextant. I leave that to the captain. I only take care of the products, or rather, I used to only take care of the products. Oh, impressive! You look as young as me, and yet you seem to have led a much more eventful life. My reply seemed to surprise her, and she tilted her head to the side, making the metal beads in her hair chime. I think you're a bit younger than I am, Your Grace, and besides, you're Empress. The title made me smile almost despite myself, but it didn't entirely remove the melancholy from my voice. From today only. Wasn't there an upcoming CG? Eventually. I could only guess the life that she had led, but I felt frustrated in comparison to have waited all these years in the shadows. All I had done was study and place the rare pawns at my disposal in the best way I could to prepare my coronation. Without that stroke of luck that had ended my father's life prematurely, I could have waited much longer. The scholars always said he was as healthy as a horse. Oh. Speaking of, solemnly she held out her glass to invite me to toast and looked me in the eye. But you'll rule for a great many years to come, and I'm glad to be here in Calidia to witness it, Majesty. She seemed sincere, and somehow her words managed to lighten my heart while our glasses clinked against one another. She was right. Holding on to the past was useless. I would look to the future now, and now that I truly had the power to change it. Out of curiosity. Aha! You can hide the chat, or the text box. Like, I wonder if clicking the middle button on the mouse does that. I'm glad to have you by my side as well, Asha. I hope that the bonds between Azyria and Calidia will be strengthened thanks to your presence. I'll do my best, Your Grace. There's a short silence while we sized each other up and happily recognized in each other the same wit and the same strength of character. Means I can do this now. Let me have my proper hair. There's a short silence while we... the character. Finally, she lifted the glass to her lips and drained it with a sensual sort of elegance. Set aside Marjorie's advice for a second and followed suit. Party was, after all, held in my honor, and I want to savor a good glass of wine in good company under the stars. Day 37. Or wake up with a killer hangover. I mean, what? Your Grace, as you surely know, an essential task that comes with your role as a ruler is to listen to your subjects' petitions. They've accumulated since your father's death, and even before, he was never very fond of that duty. Now that you've been crowned, you need to dedicate them a fair share of your time. It's especially important because the other advisors and myself have gotten used to lodging petitions on matters that require your attention, but do not fit the Council's agenda. Explain it to me. All this is very new to me. I won't say no to further explanations. Petitions are matters that require your informed judgment, whether they pertain to trials, grant requests, or other various issues. The other advisors and myself are usually tasked with submitting them, but we may also pass on requests coming directly from your subjects. I divide them into two stacks, urgent affairs and current affairs. Of course, current affairs must be attended as soon as possible. I've added an exclamation mark to the stack for more clarity. As long as all urgent affairs haven't been dealt with, won't give you any current affairs so as not to distract you with futile matters. As with everything that requires your input, petitions may necessitate the mobilization of certain resources. Don't forget that they can also offer opportunities. Good decisions can turn out to be quite lucrative. Finally, you must keep in mind that improving the living conditions of your people will ensure their affection for you and, in the long run, will contribute to the realm's prosperity. Is that clear? Okay. Perfect. I suggest you deal with one of mine first. It's an issue that's been on my mind for a while. Took a moment to rummage through the items on the table before handing me a sealed parchment roll. Here you go. Well then, I'll let you study that on your own and go about your business. Feel free to go through more of them so you can grow familiar with the process. You will be informed of their outcome in due time. Alright, even if the crown is yours, I'd be wary of your bastard brothers. For some, an illegitimate son is far better than a woman. I wouldn't want the nobility to use this excuse so they can rid of you the first chance they get. Task the Master of Murmurs with investigating them. At the moment, it seems that most of them live a modest life as craftsmen or servants. The simplest minds can be the easiest to sway, especially since you haven't established any bond with them, which means that nothing will stop them from betraying you. I suggest dealing with the issue in a permanent way. Of course you say in a permanent way. Alright. It's best not to take any risks, though I loathe these methods. I can't risk a civil war or a coup. Giving too much of myself. As long as they haven't done anything to me, I refuse to let paranoia get the best of me and have them assassinated. However, I do recognize my half-brothers are a threat and believe we should definitely keep an eye on them. I refuse to become a tyrant or to let paranoia trap me in a spiral of violence. So I'll take the opposite approach. I'll make them happy, which should ensure that they don't have any desire to take my title from me or to cause me harm. Since someone asks them what they want, do your best to satisfy their wishes, but make sure they're aware of my role as their patron. Your half-brothers were pleasantly surprised by your offer. The twins only asked for a few more coins, and they praised your name. The other two have more specific requests. Aaron Villas asks for your permission to marry the daughter of a lord, Lila de Lavallee, whose father is opposed to the marriage. This was above my pay grade, so I submitted another petition on the topic with an in-depth explanation. Yassine Lecordonnier asked for your permission to come to the palace without mentioning what position he wanted to occupy. He'll look over the details with you once he's ready. Time will tell if your kindness is rewarded. Alright. Petition. Our events is not available in the demo. Petitions. Grandmother Aaron Villas wishes to marry Lila de Lavallee, the daughter of a lord. Her father vehemently opposes marriage. Aaron is asking for your help. Talon de Lavallee's main fear is that his daughter makes a misalliance. Aaron Villas is a mere blacksmith without any personal fortune. Giving him land and a title would solve the problem, but the nobility would not happily welcome an uneducated bastard into their ranks. Alright. Request is reasonable and can only bless the union of two young lovers. A small Lilith estate will be given to him along with an appropriate title. Rather upset a single Laura rather than entire nobility. Tell Aaron and Leela they have my blessing for the wedding. Since her father won't do it, take care of the dowry. We'll take care of the dowry. Yeah. Your Majesty, I want to personally thank you for intervening so I may marry Aaron. He's a wonderful man and we are basking in happiness. We have moved to Meridian to escape my father's anger. He's a resentful man and you should be careful as well. I'm sure he did not appreciate your interference in this affair. Thank you again for making my happiness a reality. I hope that you too will find love. Alright, petitions. Your Grace, this won't be an easy task, but I'd like to suggest a modification of the current inheritance law in use since Magnus I. The goal would be to simplify it and avoid potential bloodbaths in the absence of a male heir. Taking inspiration from the rather vague rules of the First Kingdom of Terranfell, which had allowed Melisandre to become queen, such changing the law so that the firstborn of the family becomes the heir regardless of their gender. There's no doubt that such a big change might not please everyone, but I do think in the long run this would only benefit Calidia. Yeah? It's all free? New law will be promulgated while uncompromising its application, so it's going to be beneficial, how to overturn the customs, and allow big into it the possibility for a family head to designate in their will another heir amongst their children if they believe the eldest isn't fit to govern. Be beneficial, probably too brutal. Let's amendment specified in the absence of first degree male heir. Yeah, I feel like just in case, like I shouldn't have to be the firstborn. But like, possibility. You nobles. Oh no, minus 10 nobility. Can I? I don't want to lose 10 nobility for that. Okay, we'll just do that. Oh, minus 20 nobility! Okay, never mind. This is less nobility loss. A few nobles gnashed their teeth when they saw these changes, but since they're still able to elect their sons, they only bared their fangs on principle. Overall, I believe the law has been well received. Many people have recognized that indeed it will help avoid useless and bloody succession wars. Oh, that's all I get to do? Okay. I was truly glad to be Empress now, but as I'd expected, I hadn't had a single moment to myself since my coronation. There was an endless and continuous stream of people paying their respects to me, and more or less feudal issues to solve. Even though I was happy to finally be able to exercise my power legitimately, I also felt that I needed a break. Thus, after taking care of the most urgent matters, I decided to take a moment to relax in. We'll talk with Asha, thank you. We'll go to the gardens. Taking a breath of fresh air seemed like the best way to replenish my reserves of energy, especially since the weather was lovely. I aimlessly walked along the garden trails, filling my lungs with clean air, when I saw Asha sitting on a bench, her eyes closed, her head thrown back. She looked so peaceful that I wondered if she was sleeping, and I approached her as stealthily as I could, trying not to wake her. Just need to adjust my cushion. My Spanish talents was rather unimpressive since she heard me and opened her eyes to look at me. With a smile, she politely bowed her head. Good day, Your Majesty. Are you here to take a sunbath as well? She unceremoniously motioned to the bench, inviting me to join her. Although I was surprised by such familiarity, I was still tempted, and I sat down in the smooth wood, comfortably warmed up by the sun. It would be a crime to have such a beautiful garden not to want to take advantage of it. I can only approve. This is my favorite spot in the palace, alongside the library. I softly smiled at her, letting a lazy silence settle between us until I felt the need to start a conversation. So tell me, do you enjoy Calydia? It's a beautiful place, but as beautiful as it may be, it only reminds me of how much more beautiful my island is. I've never been to Assyria, but I had heard the most wondrous descriptions of it. I could understand her homesickness, but at the same time, I felt a touch of chauvinism stir within me. This isn't a contest, Asha. I said that in a joking manner to hide my scowl, but she didn't budge, showcasing once more her talent for subtle back talk. That's good, because you would lose. This would annoy me from most people, but her little expression simply made me want to play along, and I replied just as mischievously. You're feeling so homesick, I can always send you back. And deprive you of the only person with a sense of humor in your court. I hardly doubt that, Your Grace. Especially since this place is in dire need of a feminine presence. The ratio would crash were you to send me away. Her remark made me laugh, briefly but openly. If what they say about Assyria is true, I suppose it must be strange for you to see so many men holding power. Oh yes, and it just comforts me in the certainty that we've done the right call letting women rule. If only the rest of my people could hear what you're saying. I think your gender might stand in the way. You think that your gender might stand in the way of your rule? Obviously, don't forget, I'm only here because my brother is dead and my father never remarried. I've been crowned, but I know many people still doubt my abilities and my legitimacy. And yet, do you feel up to the task? I definitely am up to it. There wasn't a hint of doubt in my voice. My entire life had been built around this rule that was now mine. Asha seemed deep in thought. Have you tried preparing yourself? To the best of my abilities, yes. I've read books, many books, on different subjects. I've listened to my elders' advice too. Well, there isn't exactly a course organized by the scholars for all this. There isn't one, really. Where I'm from, potential future queens receive a pretty strict education from an early age, which is destined to make them the best possible rulers. Everything is planned for. And even if you follow that curriculum, in order to be crowned, you still need to undergo a whole battery of tests supervised by the matriarchs. Queen can only be appointed when she's proved her discernment and her value. Impressed with the system was completely strange to me. I took in the information with curiosity. And do you think that's effective? Nothing's ever perfect, but we haven't had a single tyrant since the system has been set up. I'd only say it fosters a certain inertia. Our queens are the protectors of our people. To fulfill that duty, they abandon their names, dedicate themselves to a task, and follow that long training which shapes them. That preserves us from the ambition of a single person who could decide to satisfy their thirst for power at the expense of others. When you look closely, none of the 12 queens of the kingdom particularly stand out. They all seem thorough and far from simple chauvinistic admiration that I had initially suspected of animating her. That prompted me to take some time as well and ponder before answering. I see. It's true that reigns on the continent are often eventful. But I do think sometimes a strong-headed leader with a distinct personality is what's best to guide a nation in a time of crisis. As I've told you, Your Grace, nothing is ever perfect. I wasn't trying the slightest to cast doubt in your reign to come. It's that if that's what you're thinking, if I was wary of you and wouldn't have told you all these things. Thank you for your trust. Ever since my coronation's taken place, I haven't had a minute to step back and take everything in. Perhaps I'm too defensive. The weight of the responsibilities that come with your title would break many people's backs, believe me. But you can't neglect yourself either, Your Grace. Worn down tree by the tantrums of nature isn't robust enough to bear its fruits. And even on that count, I think Aziria is ahead of you. If you want to wind down one day, I'll show you one of those massages we're famed for. A malicious spark flickered in her eye, coupled with a slightly husky tone of her voice, and made me blush. Eager to hide my embarrassment, I took refuge in humor. If you weren't a woman, I was sworn that you were propositioning me. Oh, I was definitely flirting with you, Your Grace. Oh. Her frankness took me aback, and I found myself stunned silent. Nobles were fond of these kinds of false seduction games, but I had never seen it take place between two women. And Asha won't flirt with you outside of romance scenes anymore. She'll continue to flirt with you even if you don't romance her. Made me want to play along. You would dare to try and corrupt my pure and innocent soul? My voice was clearly exaggerated and provocative, which seemed to amuse her. Your soul may well be pure, but innocent? I doubt it. You're far too cunning for that. She winked at me. In any case, you know where to find me if you decide to take me up on my massage offer. Believe me, once you try it, you won't be able to live without it. It might be best if I never try it out then. It would be most unfortunate if I fell into the hands of a foreign power. She burst out into laughter when she saw the falsely worried face I put on, and I joined her, alternating between open fits and small giggles until my stomach hurt. She was the first to calm down. Her face turned serious and she cleared her throat. I shouldn't bother you any longer. I'm afraid my little nap has dragged on rather longer than I planned. It was a pleasure talking to you, Your Grace. All the pleasure's mine, Asha. Oh, okay. We're back. Petitions. Your Grace, I've discovered that someone has placed pagan talismans in the palace. One was even found in your living quarters. Do not think that these amulets hold any sort of power, but the intentions are quite real. I cannot bear the thought that someone wishes to curse you. With the power of Master of Murmur's help, we've identified the servant behind these talismans. We have, however, stayed discreet. We will await your orders before we take action. This could give us an opportunity to learn more about the situation. General Alexander. So what do we got? Don't want unnecessary bloodshed. Find an excuse to fire. Countless opportunity to gather information past the spy. Keep a discreet eye on her, yes. We are actively... Oh, hey, +1 religion. Actively keeping an eye on Miranda, but for the time being, we have not learned anything. Apart from a few ridiculous and harmless rituals, her life is just as mundane as it is boring. She does not seem to be meeting with other pagans or actively working to bring about your downfall. Petitions. We'll just keep doing petitions. Your Grace, the scholars would like to expand the Academy of Astra Rock in order to welcome more aspirants. The numbers grow every year, and besides, the Dean would like to extend the duration of some training courses as our knowledge in the fields has deepened and become more detailed over time. Scholars have raised the required funds thanks to several generous donors, but since the academy is located in the very middle of the capital, the expansion requires raising some of the shops and lodgings that have been built around it. People are not thrilled at the idea. With or without your help, the Academy will prosper, but it's always good to foster one's friendships. Alright, cost. Oh, that's really expensive. So I see few stalls and lodging is price to pay to expand our academy, thereby increase the splendor of our influence throughout the world. It's in the importance of offering a quality education to our scholars and future scholars, but accompanied down at the expense of people's comfort. Build another academy away from the center, so has all the room it needs. The crown will fund the additional costs. I wish I could see from here what I had. What do I have? Money 8? I kind of just want to do that. Like, have them... Do I want to have them build a second one? Yeah. Plus 10 people, plus 5 religion. The scholars are creatures of habit. Scholars? And the idea made them gnash their teeth at first, but they quickly saw all the advantages of erecting a new structure and are now impatient to see their new building come to life. Since we're starting from scratch, the process will take longer, but I'm sure that the result will exceed our expectations, and that the new academy will be even more renowned than the previous one. Petitions. Good morning, Your Grace. In need of support, I take the liberty of writing to you despite the borders that separate us, hoping that you will not take offense. Following a painful illness, my father, the Grand Duke Edgar of Belarius, recently died. May his soul rest in peace. As his only direct heir, I would normally receive his titles and lands, but some cousins of the family have decided otherwise. Since I'm not married, these dear cousins argue that there must be a patriarch for the family to run smoothly. Of course, my father's title and possessions are all they care about, and they have no use for me. I fear I can't protect what's mine from their shenanigans. Your ascension to the throne, despite criticism, is an inspiration to me. That's why I took the liberty of asking for your help today. I know that Calidia's influence in my country is limited due to the animosity between our two nations. I have no doubt that you're a resourceful woman who will be able to offer me valuable advice, if not involve yourself on my behalf. Very respectful and with a sincere friendship. Alright, cost free. Understand your position all too well. Oh gosh. Beyond the complex laws of inheritance, often those who have the means to assert their rights get what they want. Show strength will convince the emperor. We'll not do that. Everyone knows how slow your country is administratively. Cousin's request for you to disappear would give you much more time to firm up your position. A piece of paper is easily lost. Yeah, we'll do that. Plus 2 goods. Your Grace, I thank you for your wishes of success. As it seems that no missive from my cousins managed to reach His Majesty Justinian III, I went myself to the palace to defend my cause, and since there was no one to contest, my request was accepted. I was able to recover the title and lands that were rightfully mine. My cousins have now become very kind in hope of scrounging up a few favors, so I'll be able to protect my inheritance as my late father wished. As a token of my gratitude, I'm sending you a shipment of marble. Hope it will help you in return. Respectfully, Lady Alma. Day 52! That's a jump. Ugh. Hydrate though. Days passed by all in a blur. All similar to each other. New positions to manage, new events to participate, influential people to flatter. I had never had any illusions. I had always known that my life as an empress would be mainly paced by paperwork and diplomatic discussions, but sometimes it got a bit much. I knew the decisions I was making could change lives and minds, and I hoped that under my rule, my kingdom would prosper. But I couldn't see the results of my hard work after a mere few weeks. I had to settle for little victories, and sometimes I caught myself hoping for anything to disrupt my day. Fortunately, nothing seemed to be on the cards. Your Grace, would you have a few moments to spare me? I started out my daydreaming. I looked at the unfinished letter in front of me and pushed it aside to give my full attention to the Master of Murmurs, who removed his hood after closing the door. Of course, I'm all ears. Today, a wandering caravan coming from Vargas was attacked by bandits while they were crossing the Elm Bridge. Merchandise was stolen, the guards were killed, and the people in the caravan are now being held hostage to be ransomed. By the floor, that's awful. I was now used to be the one who must being, I think that's supposed to be being, be the one who must find solutions. I immediately started going through them in my mind. That bridge is a strategic location. It should have been better protected. Send men over there and I'll ask Marjorie to send hers as well. Her men are closer by. They should be able to secure the area and limit the disruptions to that heavily trafficked commercial road. And put a bounty on these bandits. We had to find the hostages and deal with their captors as decisively as possible. Patiently, he let me finish, but I saw his expression. As I saw his expression, I realized there was more to it and I frowned. There's something in particular that I should know about this caravan, Master murmurs. Softly, he nodded. Amongst the captured people is one of my agents, a master of spying and infiltration. He had been in Vargas for a few months to keep an eye on a family of nobles, and he was urgently coming back with some vital information. What does it have to do with my father's assassination? Do you think Vargas is guilty of it? No, at first glance, there's no connection. Your father's assassination is still under investigation, even if I have to admit that at the moment we're somewhat stalled. What is this about? That's precisely the issue. I don't know. Apparently it was crucial information. My agent has always been excessively prudent. Feared that his mail might be intercepted, and therefore he was reluctant to send me written information, even if our messages are always coded. So you're telling me that one of our spies, who infiltrated Vargas, has been captured not far from the border while he was coming back with information of the utmost importance, and you have no clue what that is? Finally, now that Ford decided to grant my wish of a little more excitement, I started regretting wishing for it in the first place. The situation did not bode well. That's correct. Like you, I do find this coincidence suspicious. We can't be sure of anything. If they just want to cover their tracks, they could have simply killed him right there and then, as well as the guards. Maybe they just got rid of the body. We can't exclude that possibility, but we received a demand of ransom addressed to his family, like the other 4 hostages. I don't know. Well, in any case, we have to clear up this situation quickly. Do we have any other agents stationed in Vargas who could try to learn what our spy knows? A few, yes, but I'm afraid that they won't be discreet enough if they were to approach the same people. The decision is yours to make. What's dangerous? But we still have to try. Very well, Your Majesty, I'll order them to follow the same tracks as the agent, but he had been there for months. I doubt they can obtain the quick results. I know, but this information was crucial. We don't have a choice. We have to try. Understand, and for the bandits, what shall we do? I took the time to think and weigh my options before making a decision. Do we have any information whatsoever on these bandits? If they are who they pretend to be, they've been active all over the territory. Always followed this pattern, but we know little about them. For the time being, we have no idea of their whereabouts or who their leader is. Are they trustworthy? I mean, once the ransoms have been paid, will they truly release the hostages? So far, yes, they've kept their word. And no proof that this was a setup. Can't continue letting bandits live in our lands, even if they're known for being trustworthy. Situation far too uncertain to engage resources. If it's a trap, we'll lose more lives, and I refuse to finance these bandits any further. Even though it'll cost me. We have no proof that this was a setup. We have to believe, at the very least, that our agent is alive. They're known for keeping their promises. The best course of action is to pay their ransom without further discretions. Very well, Majesty. I'll send one of my men to pay the ransom. Let's hope we can trust these bandits. Day 59, afternoon. Your Grace, even if it disgusts me to finance these vile bandits, the ransom has been paid without issues, and we managed to get our agent back. The information that he holds is of crucial importance. You should meet him in person to hear all the details. All I can say is that the situation is serious. Unable to sleep, I got up to take a bit of fresh air at the window. As much as I had told myself there was no point in speculating before I got the spy's report, I couldn't stop the foreboding I felt. I was about to be proved right. Thanks for playing the Imperial Grace demo! Oh, can I just save it here then? Yay! Back. I was about to be proved right. Thanks for playing the Imperial Grace demo. We hope you had a good time. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord to follow the creation of the game in real time and talk with the team and the community. That just goes back to the menu. Cool, cool, cool. I can load that then. Let me just go back to that screen. Aha! So, that was Imperial Grace. As I said at the start of the video, this is taking part in Choose Wisely Fest 2025, taking place between December 8th and 15th, so be sure to check that out. The link for that is in the description. This, along with many other cool games, are in there, various demos, discounts, and just games to check out. There's a bunch of cool, like, narrative, choice-based games in there. Like this, like Imperial Grace. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider tossing a like, comment, subscribe. Maybe click the bell for notifications. Also, be sure to check out the description below. Various links, social media, Discord. Come hang out, get notifications there as well. And until next time, this is rinimt signing out. Bye! Now go check out the festival and the game. Bye!